Hello YouTube, this is a video about Humean skepticism. David Hume, by one account, was a skeptic about induction. What is induction? When we use induction, we take particular facts and project them into the future. We assume that because something is true now, or because something used to be true, it is likely that it will continue to be true into the future. What kinds of things do I have in mind? We'll say, general relativity has yielded accurate test predictions in the past. Therefore, many people think that it seems reasonable to assume that it will continue to yield accurate test predictions. Seems like they'd say, we don't really have any reason to think that something drastic, like, changes in the laws of physics, for instance, will occur. But I'll bring in skepticism about induction. Someone would say, well, why is it that you believe that because the laws of physics, why is it that you believe the laws of physics will be will in the future resemble how they've been in the past? Well, they just have to appeal to induction. They say because relativity was accurate in the past, it is likely to continue to be accurate into the future. So that's an instance of using induction. Now you can say, now the difficulty is justifying induction. So how do you go from it was true in the past to it is likely to be true in the future? How would you justify that? Now the most intuitive way to try to justify induction is to say, look, all these times in the past that I used induction, it worked. So doesn't it seem like because induction was successful in the past that it will continue to be successful? But that's using induction to justify induction, which is circular. So that's not an adequate defense of using induction. So what would be an accurate defense, or a successful defense, sufficient defense? I'm not sure if anyone has come up with one. And Everett from the username Everett's Vlog, he's gone over 8 different ways that, I'll link you to his video, he's gone over 8 different ways that people have tried to justify induction, and Everett concludes that each of them is insufficient. There's one of them that I think is pretty interesting, where someone tries to say, look, we're not irrational when we use induction, because what it is to be rational is just to use induction and to use it properly. But anyway, I ultimately don't find that to be very compelling. But let me go into some of the details as to just how powerful Hume's argument is. Several people on YouTube, Casino, and Everett seem to be framing it as if the problem of induction is just sort of a problem for science. Our theories aren't guaranteed to be true. Isn't that too bad? And then, as Casino says, well, we could always have disconfirmed. We can never rule out the possibility that in the future we will come across disconfirming evidence that makes our theories, that shows that our theories are wrong. So isn't it too bad that we don't have this guarantee like we do within deduction? If you can perform a deductive proof within logic or mathematics, and you can prove that the axioms and the inference rules that you use entail your conclusion, deductively, logically entail. Casino has talked about a scientific worldview, about what it is to have a scientific worldview. He's made some interesting points about, what are our theories ultimately. They're basically our best guesses, and best guesses as to what certain truths are in nature. For instance, special relativity. It's kind of our best model as to what happens when you travel at high velocities in an inertial reference frame, which means you're not accelerating. So that's kind of So that's an example of one of our best guesses, one of our scientific theories. And yes, special relativity could be disconfirmed, and we don't know for sure that relativity will, stand the test of time. But again, it's not just the scientific theories. I mean, Kant, who famously said that Hume awakened him from his dogmatic slumber. David Hume came along and said had a lot of novel ideas that Kant felt compelled to address. So Kant thought that Hume's skepticism about induction basically meant that believing, for instance, that because Newtonian mechanics yielded accurate test predictions in the past, Kant says it's irrational to then, Hume says that it's irrational to assume that just because Newtonian mechanics was accurate in the past, that it is likely to be accurate in the future. Hume says it's irrational to do that, and this basically, Hume's skepticism of induction appears to, and Kant feared that it did, basically completely undermine science. Because, you could say, well, it's okay, E equals mc squared. It's supposed to be this grand truth of, some truth of physics, some truth about how the world works, some truth about the relationship between, energy and mass and the speed of light, so some sort of conversion factor. If you have a certain amount of mass, how much energy is that? Well, multiply that amount of mass times the speed of light times the speed of light again, and that's how much energy it is, using appropriate units. So, but if you're skeptical about induction, you can say, okay, maybe you could say that we knew. You might even want to say that we had knowledge that E equals mc squared. But just because that was true yesterday doesn't tell you anything about whether or not it's going to be true tomorrow. So, okay, but again, it's not just a problem for science. Right now, I'm making a video for YouTube. I've yet to upload it. I'm creating it with the intention of uploading it. But Hume could say, well, you believe that because, YouTube existed before you made the video, that it's likely that YouTube will exist after you made the video. But you're projecting the past into the future. You're using induction, and that's unjustified. So the point is, basically every action we do would be irrational. You say you're driving. Let's say you leave your job and you're walking to the parking lot to get your car. Well, one could argue, if one is a skeptic about induction, that just because your car was parked in a certain spot before you went to work or while you were at work, that tells you nothing about whether or not it's going to be parked there afterward. Now, you may be tempted to say, well, okay, there is some probability. It's not like it's logically impossible for someone to, say, steal a car. But if that's what your intuitions are telling you, if that's what you're suspecting, then I don't think you're fully grasping what is entailed by skepticism about induction. It's not just, well, it's not very likely that your car will be there. It's that you're totally irrational if you even suspect that it's that there's over a 50% chance that your car will be there. As I'm making this video, I'm assuming that the laws of physics won't drastically change between the time that I finish this video, between now and the time that I finish this video. I'm going to have to split this one into two parts.